Hello, how are you? It's good to be with you again. I hope you're having a good week. I hope you're getting ready for Thanksgiving, or maybe not. Well, it depends on how many people you're having, if you're having dinner. So, but all is good. I hope all is well with you. And I wanted to share, again, it's this day, what the lesson was that I had with my grandchildren yesterday. And first of all, we've been starting out every week with that prayer for peace, especially for Gaza and for Israel and for Ukraine. So making them so they've got drifted and they've shared that with their family, and I think that's great. So we did that, and then what we did the assessment they did for Unit 1, and they, as I've said to you before, they really enjoy doing that assessment. I don't know why, and then they really get they get upset like when they confuse lectionary with liturgy. I mean, it is connected, but and it starts, they both start with the letter L. So I could understand that, but I'm like, really, how many times have we talked about this? But they're really cute and they do it with such like a fun-loving spirit, and yet they get, not that they get upset if they get something wrong. They're like, oh, you're kidding me, that kind of a thing, kind of attitude. So I was glad, and I just can't believe we're into Unit 2. I don't know where the time is going. But yesterday, as you know, we talked about this coming Sunday's gospel, what has to do with the parable of the talents, and just trying to explain what talents are. It's money, but then to shift to what talents as we know they are, because that's really what the parable is about at the end of the day. What are our gifts and what do we do with them? And for younger children, I think it's good to point out to them what gifts are. I think I would be surprised if you said to a younger child, what are your gifts? What are your talents? I don't think they would know. I think we have to tell them the things that, oh, you're really good at that, or, you're really smart about that, or that was very kind of you. Just for little children, you have to do that. However, I think we have to do that with older children as well. So yesterday I was talking to them about their own gifts and talents. And it so happens that the older children, one is a senior in high school, one is a freshman in high school, came in on the conversation. So when I said to the younger ones, the sixth graders, what are your gifts or talents? It was like either I'm good at sports or I'm good at math. And we kind of joked about it after a while. The older children were different. The senior in high school knows what he's ready to go. He's I'm going to major in, medical biomedical science or whatever. I said, well, that's great. The freshman is a in high school. She says, oh, I'm going to be a lawyer. And I said, oh, because I said, well, what do you want to do when you get older? Maybe we could figure out what your talents are then. And she said, I'm going to be a lawyer, but then I'm going to get married. And this year I'm going to have my first child. And the next 2 years I'm going to have my second child. I'm going, good luck with that, honey. Because I didn't say this to her, but those of us who have lived long enough know it usually doesn't work out that way. We just can't plan life like that. But she'll learn. She will learn. But at least she has in the back of her mind. And then I just want to be a lawyer. And I said, well, what kind of law do you want to practice? That kind of threw her a curveball and just, I don't know, Grandma. I just don't know. So I said, well, you have plenty of time to figure that out if that's the case. But the two younger ones, again, it was all about sports. It was all about, and so I decided to tell them what I thought their gifts and talents were. And sometimes we need to hear that from another person. Maybe we don't know within ourselves yet what that might be. I think as we get older and we experience more in life, you can kind of, say, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm not good at. And I told them, I told my grandson that I thought I think he's kind. I think he's sensitive. I think he's, always willing to help. And they kind of looked at each other like I can't do that. My granddaughter, I said to her, Sage, I think you're very kind. She is very sweet, very kind, that she always wants to help people. I said, that's wonderful. So those are your gifts and talents. What are you going to do with them? And that's what the gospel is very clear to us about, that we are not to bury them like that servant did, but we are to share them. And how are we going to share them with the world? What came up in conversation was the fact that they did not go to mass on Sunday. I don't know if somebody was sick. I don't know. I can't recall what the issue was, or they just, for whatever reason, they didn't go. However, they did watch it on television. So that's good. But they watched my parish, and the 5 o'clock mass on Saturday is always taped and streamed, so they were able to watch it on Sunday. And I was Eucharistic minister at that Mass. So the whole talk of the Mass was they said, "Oh, Grandma, we saw you." I said, Mass is not about Grandma, Well, we saw you giving out communion and all that. But what made me think about that, as I said to them when we discussed, I said, "But don't you see, that's one of my talents that I think I have. I love to bring Jesus and give Jesus to other people." And I think we can start talking about that as well. Not just, we can kind of slide into what are my gifts, what are my talents, how am I going to use them in the world? But what about ministry too? And I don't think they're young. I think they're old enough to start to understand what ministry is, that God comes into the good works that we do, and for us to be aware of God and the good works we do. So as you see, again, I think we always have to have, when we're teaching children, teaching anyone, we have to have a catechetical mindset. In other words, when things happen, everything's a teaching moment, and it brings connection. So just by them watching me on the Mass, bringing that into the gospel and saying, here it is, but you are to do the same, and to be aware of what your gifts are, and to use them and practice them. We got into the Psalms a little bit. For some reason, I'm really into the Psalms lately. It's really good. So I just find them, I love them. I love the Psalms. I think they're very comforting in many ways. So we discussed the Psalm that's coming up this coming Sunday. And of course has a lot to do with the ideal wife. And I really tried hard not to laugh. You know, you try your best. I still don't know what an ideal wife is, but explaining to them in that language, what's a spindle, what does that mean? But then the lesson made it very clear, someone, especially their mom, how does she use her hands, and what does she do to create things, not just, so it was a nice lesson, because it was like looking at ourselves for what gifts we have, telling them what gifts they thought they had, and they started telling me what they thought my gifts were. Uh, and then we extended the family. So it was a nice lesson. It was just nice. And um, we laughed a few times as well. I think they're funny. It's great. But explaining it, and I think that could be a little difficult, gospel, because that whole word, the vocabulary of talents and gifts, and sometimes we get them confused. So I said, just the most important thing: never, ever, ever bury it. It's for the kingdom of God that we use them and we share them to help others. So that was the lesson yesterday. I'm looking forward to next week. It'll be Monday before Thanksgiving, and I'm sure, I'm not sure what the gospel is yet with that. I'm not sure. I'm not that far ahead. But anyway, I'm looking forward to being with them and enjoying being with them. Have a good week, and I'll see you next week. Take care. God bless.